Good morning, Bikeaholics!
Oh yeah, once you've had Rick Rack, you'll never go back. The ultimate motorcycle luggage rack solution. Forget those messy straps and bungee cords. Go strapless. With a Rick Rack quick attach luggage system and quality bag, head over to lawabidingbiker.com/store. Get hooked up now. Want to ride longer? Tired of a sore and achy ass? Then fix it with a high-quality butt buffer seat cushion. Head over to lawabidingbiker.com/store and check out our full lineup of butt buffer seat cushions. Hey, Bikeaholics, 03D has a wide variety of innovative products for your Harley-Davidson and a brand new line for the all-new Honda Goldwing named Gold Strike. Top quality, affordable chrome lighting and comfort products. Zero Gold Strike are the motorcycle LED lighting innovators for CAN bus plug-and-play system compatibility. Head over to lawabidingbiker.com/store. Check out our full line of 03D products. And now, straight from the Law Abiding Biker Media Studio,
out of sunny Yakima, Washington,
we bring you another episode of the
#1 listen to motorcycle podcast.
We're in your head.
We're in your head.
We're in your head.
We're in your head.
Let's do this thing. Welcome back, you freaking bikeaholics. This is the podcast for the motorcycle majority, the big MM, also known as the 99%. That's right, large and in charge of the motorcycle scene more than any time in history by being here, by listening, whether you like it or not, and I know you like it. You're part of what we call hashtag Biker Revolution. Oh, yeah. I do have just one question for you before we get started. What are you waiting for, Bikeaholics? Mount up. Let me and my special guest take you on another wild-ass ride. There you go, guys. Ryan Erlacher here, your host of the Law Abiding Biker podcast and your high-tech redneck. Got an awesome topic for you guys today. We're going to get into it in just a minute. There are a couple announcements and a new free video that will likely be important to many of you, but we are going to talk about current motorcycle companies and their efforts to draw a younger generation and their lack of marketing, or maybe they're doing a good job. I don't know, but I have, I will say, subject matter expert, not only because of his age, but because of his background and what he kind of does for a living. We've talked a little bit, and I'm actually excited to learn a whole bunch more about this subject. So real quick, new free video, guys, let me find it for you. It is, the video. Okay. It is, it's been out for a while, but we try to announce them as we can. So remove your front brake hand lever on a Harley-Davidson motorcycle. This is pretty standard across all the different models, regardless if it's a touring or a Softail or whatever. So you can get that, of course, over on the YouTube channel, our website, or just lawabidingbiker.com/Harley-brake-lever. But I'll put it in the show notes for you guys. And as always, the show notes are always whatever I talk about, lawabidingbiker.com/ and the episode number. So it'd be like if this was 201, which it's not, it'd be 201. So that's how you can always, and of course, depending on what app you're listening to the show notes, like Apple Podcasts, it's right there. The links and everything we talk about are right there. And of course, we love our sponsors up front, but these people, and in fact, the very guest here today is one of these. And we love our patron members. Lewis Cowley of Richardson, Texas. Brent Doyen of Gilbert, Arizona. James Adams of Richmond Heights, Ohio. Top tier. Jim Chassie of Saucier, Mississippi. Michael Steiner. Alex Stone of Dallas, Texas. Top tier. Bill Blankenships of Toledo, Washington. Right across the mountains from me. Very cool. Toledo. Bart Schroeder of Holland, the Netherlands. Okay. I don't even know how to say that, the city. And Christian Yerkadez of Nogales, Arizona. Lawabidingbiker.com/Patreon. Pledge a certain amount per piece of content. No risk to you guys because you can put a monthly cap. There are benefits such as t-shirts, stickers, the private Facebook group, of course, Troll Free Zone. You get access to this podcast months before everybody else, access to our live video broadcasts, and chat, up to access to our premium videos upon request. Always adding benefits, and love spending time with you guys in the private Facebook group. So let's dive right into this interview. On the line with me, I do have one Michael Rubinson. And Michael, why don't you just do a quick, we're going to dive into it. It's going to be a great biker conversation for you guys. We haven't prepped at all, really, other than I'm very curious to learn about Michael and kind of what he brings to the table. So let's just shoot from the hip there, Michael, and tell me what you're willing to tell me about yourself, where you're at.
Yeah, so yeah, Mike, I'm from East Coast in New Jersey, pretty much right outside Philadelphia. Still enjoying extremely humid day out here. I think it feels like 100 degrees with the humidity, so it's like walking through soup. That's the bonus right now. Hopefully you don't have that out there.
No, we're pretty lucky. We're dry heat, so yeah.
Oh, I wish. But yeah, so I know we kind of mentioned it, but I think it's funny. You mentioned the troll-free zone. I think that my generation was the one that gave that term to the world, is the troll-free areas. But it's used well here, I guess.
Yeah.
Sometimes in my industry, we hear it a lot, so I kind of want to just like bounce off my head. But yeah, it's put to good use here.
Yeah, well, good. I like that. And he's wearing, I'm seeing him here. We're doing FaceTime or Facebook Messenger here, but he's wearing the Biker Media shirt. Very cool.
I felt it was appropriate.
It is very appropriate. I love it. So the very little I know, Michael, now why don't you give one of the reasons, and here's what I'll preface this with for everybody, is I think it's really cool that Michael reached out to me, and he had listened to an episode, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was the episode on Harley marketing and their lack, or trying to draw a new generation, right?
Yeah. Yep. I think it was 241. I think the number was.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, so I listened to that episode. I was, in the car running around a lot, and I think it was the specific in the part in the conversation you were discussing the Livewires, I guess, ad campaign they brought out with Ewan McGregor and the guys that did like the long way up guys.
Yeah, you're right.
And I was in the car just kind of laughing about it because. And I mean, you brought up excellent points about it, but in my head, I'm like, if I was in Harley's marketing division, ad division, and that was the idea that was presented to me to go produce and then sell these live wires, I would be so upset. It's like the word, because like you made a good point, is that it didn't make sense. So then that got me thinking and talking to myself a little bit, and that's when I reached out. Kind of in like a laughing state, but like I do this in a sense for a living. I studied this and did a thesis essentially on brand rebuilding. So I jumped ahead of myself. So I have a master's in public relations from Rowan University out here. I also went to school for journalism for undergrad. I have especially courses in intensive writing, crisis communications, brand rebuilding. I also did radio courses because it was fun. And since I got out of college, I've worked in public relations, your basic marketing. My job title now is a communication specialist, so I kind of just handle whatever I can, whether that's just website content, social media, producing videos, even just our high-level meetings where we're discussing our year-long strategy for what our goals are for reaching our audience. And this is at a nonprofit organization I work at. So now I kind of my toes in a bunch of different ponds as far as what I have to use all these little skills for.
Right. So you're wearing, like me, many hats.
Yeah.
That's kind of the way it is these days, isn't it? You
have to, yeah.
You do. And so it was interesting because Michael reached out to me, and he is a patron member. You guys can communicate with him in the private Facebook group. This episode's going to go out to our patron members, hopefully in the next couple days. You'll get it earlier. Everybody else will hear it in a couple months. But so my point being, I appreciate Michael reaching out, and you, the community, regardless if you're a patron member or you're just, one of our regular listeners, I've always encouraged everybody, we're going on 7 years now, to reach out to me. If you feel like because I have the platform, I've created the platform, but you guys know me well enough by now that I'm very much willing to share it, and I actually enjoy sharing the platform. Reason being is we can give our opinions here and some of our insight based on our experience, but think of how large the law-abiding biker community is. A lot of you have areas or niches where you can bring something to the table as far as conversation. It can be on really any subject matter that surrounds the motorcycle scene, basically. So please reach out to me. And if you think it's something you can do, Michael did it right here. You'll see how easy it is. And if you think you can carry a conversation for a podcast episode that you have some things to say, I'll certainly converse with you, and I would love to get you on. So, and the best way to do that, guys, and the way Michael did it, I appreciate, is lawabidingbiker.com/contact, or just hit our main website, our contact form. The trying to Facebook and Messenger, DM, all that stuff gets lost, guys. I have several people going through my email inbox at this point in my life because I can't keep up, and we prioritize and tag, and all the other social media stuff just kind of gets lost sometimes. So make sure you hit me up directly, and we'll certainly discuss it. And if it's something that I think is helpful to the community, I think I answered Michael within a day or two. So, yeah, so good background in marketing was one of the reasons that I was intrigued right away. And then also your age intrigues me, which is what?
So I'm 28 years old. So I'm at like the end run of the millennials, beginning of the Gen Zs, I guess, in that transition period. Because it was something that I know we briefly mentioned when we're talking, but one of the things for me is I'm a motorcycle nut is one way to put it. I've always liked cars and stuff anyway, but Harley's always been a brand that obviously everyone knows, and I think now for me as an enthusiast, but also someone who can see some of what I think with some back end problems. It's very interesting how I feel as though Harley and other brands have missed the mark as far as really creating a connection, which is how you sell now, because brand loyalty doesn't really mean anything to the younger generations. So it's kind of just building that communication. And I think, them and other brands also have missed that,
Yeah, interesting on the brand loyalty thing. So let me do this. Let's take it back a little bit, because I'm curious. Yeah. Let's go back to Michael's childhood a little bit. So you've always been interested in motorcycles and cars. Yeah. Because I want to get a little bit of that foundation. I guess because like I said, the most interesting thing is your, I guess it's not interesting, it's a fact, but your age group, because I'm glad somebody younger, because I'll tell you that, we do have in the law, I can see all the demographics, right? I can see, I have statistics on all that stuff. But, by far, you're kind of, in that age group where we don't have a ton. And so how'd you get into motorcycles at your age, and give me a little history and what bikes you've owned and kind of that story?
Yeah, for sure. So when I was like a kid, it was all cars was the first big obsession. I always liked cars, fast cars, loud cars. I remember from a really young age, I decided that my favorite car, this is probably when I was like 6 or 7, it was a 70 Chevelle LS6 motor. And at that age, I already knew that was, I didn't know exactly what it was. I was like, that's a rare motor in a really cool big car, and it makes a lot of noise and goes fast. So that's kind of when I started becoming obsessed with motors and all that. And then over the years, just like everything would intrigue me. So I just got into bikes because they were just something else with a motor in it that made some cool noises. And I'd say probably middle school, high school, I started developing it. It's like, ooh, these things look fun. But in New Jersey, it's kind of a pain, to get insured and licensed even for a car. You get your license when you're 17, but the car insurance is insane. So my folks were like, you're definitely not getting a motorcycle in high school because you can't afford it. I could barely afford to buy my own car and insure it. So I had to put that on the back burner for a little bit. I always had that thing like, I want a motorcycle. I want a motorcycle. And at that point, like, brands weren't really of interest to me. Like, I remember liking like old Triumphs back then just because I thought they looked cool. And then like different street bikes. I think there was that one racing motorcycle movie that was a pretty terrible movie, but they had that Y2K jet bike in it. And I can't remember what that movie was called, but someone that I'm sure will know the name, but I got obsessed with all that. So then that came into college, and once I started figuring out, what I wanted to do and getting more serious, I was like, okay, I need to get a motorcycle. But my folks, once again, were like, listen, we know how you drive. You haven't gotten a speeding ticket yet, and you're still living at home and not paying rent yet. So why don't we wait until we get done college first and at least move out so we don't have to worry about you. Now, my dad actually rode for years, and he hadn't had a bike for a while. He started getting the itch again. My mom started nagging him to get another motorcycle, and this is when I was starting grad school. And he's like, listen, if I get another motorcycle, I can't tell him he can't have one because he's wanted one for years. So he's like, just finish grad school, get good grades, and I don't give a shit what you do. Just, it's your money, do whatever you want. So I got, like, I think it was a 3.8 GPA for grad school. Made sure I could get it, and, you know, and that was, so it was only like 5 years ago I bought my first bike.
Wow. So what was the, I guess cars, was it your dad's bike that was the introduction, or what spurred in your head besides the movie? I mean, usually guys are around somebody, or you're just like, dude, those things are awesome. You see people riding or what? That
was pretty much it. It was just, I would see bikes around, whether it was like a movie or music videos, something like that. I mean, like I like to really, I listen to all types of music. So like I'd be watching music videos that are like, rap videos, right? They have sport bikes in them and, Hayabusas and all that stuff. They're stretched out, dragged out. But then I would be watching old Motley Crue videos that have, AMC Harleys in them, or AMC AMF Harleys in them. And, they're like loud, Easy Rider tails. And like, just I thought they were always cool looking and made a cool noise. So that was just what attracted me to them.
Yeah, cool. So what was your first bike? Sorry.
Yeah. So the first bike I bought it was a 2005 Suzuki M50 Cruiser. So Boulevard M50.
Totally. I've ridden one. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was funny because I took the license course at a Harley dealership near me. They one's in our area. It's Barb's Harley. And I realized, like, okay, I definitely wanted a cruiser bike, but I didn't want to get something too small. Like, I knew I was going to be riding a lot, so I didn't want to get something too small and grow out of it. And I just came across this 800cc fuel-injected little cruiser, and all it needed was new tires when I bought it. I think I paid $1,700 for it.
Very cool.
Pretty much went up to someone's garage, saw it, I liked it, we test drove it, drove it home. So I put about 11,000 miles on that bike, and then the next bike I have, which is the one I have right now, is a 2012 1300 V-Star Tour. And that was one that I wasn't even planning on upgrading the bike yet. I just happened to see one that it was cheap, needed some work that I could do to it, just mostly cosmetic restoration. So I was like, hey, it's what I wanted. It's going to make the trips better for me. Me and my dad and his buddies, we do camping trips on the bikes a couple times a year. So just came to that, and I've bought that in October. I put 5,000 miles on it since October. So that's the one now.
Yeah, well, that's the one on your Facebook because I looked a little bit.
Yeah,
that's the one. Yeah, that's a good looking bike. What's your dad riding?
He also has the 1300 V-Star.
Okay.
He it's funny. And we'll get into this, when we talk about the Harley thing. He loves Harleys and he wants one so bad. And I think we'll talk about. He's just, especially the dealers in our area. When I know this is something that you bring up in the podcast a lot. There's so many bad stories, and it's kind of scared him a little bit for getting the bike he really wants until money just really isn't the issue. And he's like, all right, well, if I have to take it to a dealer to work on it, if I do it myself, he's kind of gotten shell shocked about them right now. It's really weird because even I'm like, you should be fine, but I know we'll talk about that later.
Yeah. No, this is good.
Yeah.
We got some stuff to talk about there. I'm very, very interested. So tell me this. So at some point, and then we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of this thing, but I like to get this back. I just love learning about people and how you, you've probably heard my podcast. I find it fascinating talking to bikers across the country like this. It's amazing. And it's very interesting too, because you guys can't see it, but to have somebody that's younger, because this to me, it's very normal just because of what I do. The whole social media and FaceTiming and Messenger and all this, but to have somebody like Michael, his age group is very comfortable. Like I just told him, like, if you don't have a mic, just grab some earbuds. There was zero technical issues. He just hit the link that I did and we were talking, and trust me, and I'm busting their balls a little bit, the older guys, because I'm trying to get them on the thing, and they're like, what do I need to do? And they're sitting 10 feet from their computer and there's an echo. I'm like, that's why you need headphones. But we got to have fun with that. So at some point you're into motorcycles, you're riding with your dad, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You decided to become part of the Patron group and Law Abiding Biker Media. And can you tell me, I'm always fascinated with that.
Yeah, of course. So I've been listening to podcasts for a while and videos. I'm trying to remember exactly when I think I must have been looking up something about like tips on maybe working on bikes, something like that. And that's when I came across the videos, did more about the podcast, listening more about the podcast. And after just a few episodes, I was like, all right, well, this is actually a group, and there's other motorcycle podcasts I listen to and other channels, but I thought it was cool. I was like, when I get to a place that I can, support via Patreon and be part of that, I want to, because from what I do for a living, working communications, and trying just to, let's say, reach people effectively. That's like the basis of most of the work I do, right? I think that, this group does such a great job of communicating with the members, whether it's a tutorial video, whether it's, just talking about, like the new Harley models, just discussing personal opinions about them and joking around about that, even though I know that most of the people in your group are very Harley loyal, but you have no issue with discussing, well, this is what I don't like about it, joking around about it, knowing people might be a little tense about, saying the negatives about such a loyal, group. But I think it was something I was like, I appreciate this from a professional standpoint for what I do, and also happens to be content I really like. And obviously the documentary videos, I've watched them so many times. And I think that's, and like I said, I do kind of what you do for a living, so I know how all the editing goes. I'm like, man, he's throwing, I know all the time it takes to edit all that footage and all that audio and just all the technical goops that go along with it. So, it was something like, this is a group that really puts in time and effort, and I very much appreciate that,
Yeah, that's cool. I love hearing that. Yeah, and just knowing what goes on behind the scenes a little bit, with all that editing and a lot of people. And so I love it because my passion, obviously, that's one of my the things that keeps me going is being able to be I do the tutorials and I, do a lot of that stuff, and that's all fun too. But where my creative side really comes out is those type of more creative films that I can really do that with. So I love hearing that people enjoy them and that a lot of people find us that way. And yeah, we are, and you're right. And that's something we've tried to do over the years is, and then we'll dive into the meat. I just love these conversations, but we tend to be Harley centric. And I've told people, now we've done some other bikes in the past. Really, it comes down to, we just can't get our hands on a lot of the other bikes. So we always got our feelers out. We want to do some gold wing stuff because there's a lot of gold wingers in the group and stuff. And I think people know us by now, that we're definitely I'm not Harley like completely brand loyal. Like I have a Kawasaki KLR out here, it's just kind of what
actually, that's something that I need to remember that like at the end when we're done talking, I do want to ask about that bike a little bit, but just I want to make a note not to forget about it.
Yeah, no worries. No worries. I'll answer whatever I can about it. So I if I could have one of every motorcycle, I don't care what brand it is. I just love freaking motorcycles. I love adventure motorcycles, I love street motorcycles, I love dirt bikes. I love them all. So electric bikes, I would like to have an electric bike, but I'm not rich enough to do all that. So, all right, let's do this. And then, and then we'll dive in really to what I got you on here for.
All right, cool.
Hey, Bikeaholics, searching for new and exciting motorcycle products? 03D has the products you dream about for your bike. Check out their wide variety of innovative products for Harley-Davidson and Honda Goldwing motorcycles. 03D's got your back with chrome and black parts, lighting, and other comfort products. No modifying, cutting, grinding, or welding for an easy installation. That equals less time installing, more time riding. That's right, 03D has a design team of riders with over 40 years experience with a passion for design and innovation. Zero Gold Strike are the motorcycle LED lighting innovators for CAN bus plug-and-play system compatibility. They pride themselves on great customer service. Got a question? Get in touch with them. Email sales@03.com. Give them a call, 715-808-0027. Check out your local Harley or Honda dealership and ask for Zero Gold Strike parts. A new leader has emerged, so check out 03D's custom line of Gold Strike products for the all-new Honda Goldwings. Better yet, help support us. Head over to lawabidingbiker.com/store. Check out our full line of 03D products. I know that Big Daddy Kane and Goat down there are ready to box them up, ship them to you. We appreciate all of your guys' continued support down at the Law Abiding Biker store. All right, so tell me here. Let's just dive into this.
Right.
So your generation and some of your knowledge with rebranding and branding and all that, let's start here. And that is you haven't dove into a Harley. You may never dive into a Harley, but you're talking about your dad a little bit and the lack of that. Let's just dive in there if you think that's a good point to dive in. You can help me guide this conversation too, because I know you got thoughts in your head. So you dive in wherever you want.
Yeah. So it's funny. I would love to get a Harley. And it's something I talk to my dad a lot about because, I'm actually renovating my own home. I finally bought my own home. And I was joking with him I'm building essentially a shop in my garage. So, all the tools, lifts, all that good stuff. And he made a joke about it, like, if when you get an older Harley to work on, that's what's going to be sitting half time. He's joking about it. But what I mentioned before is that, we have a bunch of friends who have Harleys. We have one friend who is very lucky enough to have multiple. He has, I think it's a 2016 Street Glide. He's probably put about 20 grand in just performance and other accessories into it. He has a CVO Breakout. He has another, I think it's one of the rocker choppers. He has I think it's the 100th anniversary Dyna Lowrider. So we have a friend who is just completely in love with Harleys, right? And then we have another group of friends who are, they love them, but doesn't have to be Harley, right? And every time I talk to my dad about it, because, he loves Street Glides. I think that's what he would really love to have. Even brand new ones, he has this, a fear of maintenance. And I think part of that goes back to maybe some of the older, I'm guessing it was like that early 80s range where it was just kind of like oil just kind of leaked out wherever it could and they just rattled to death. And that's kind of like the legends you kind of hear about them. But a lot of it's also the dealers and the service departments. And I know I've heard you guys talk about it on the podcast a few times where, those guys in the service department are really the point of contact for customers. If you buy a motorcycle from a dealership, you're not talking to that salesperson that often again, unless you buy multiple bikes or you have a friend to do it. Like you're talking to that service department if you're going back to them. And the dealership by me, I don't know. It's Barb's Harley. People know who they are in the area. They've created a fairly negative viewpoint for people. And this goes to pricing. I'm sure if I talk to more people, you'd find some of that voiding warranties over slip-on mufflers and crap like that. But it also deals with work being done. I mean, my friend Christian, he has a 2015 Fat Bob, bought it from someone private party, but I had it serviced at Barb's just to say, go over, do the once over on it this way. I know it's taken care of. It was his first bike. And we just did an oil change on it after 2,000 miles because it was just like running a little sluggish. And, I was like, I don't know. It's too new of a bike with too low miles. We drained the oil and it was, pitch black and just, I'm like, there's no way this was changed. There's no way. The motor had 7,000 miles on this bike. I couldn't imagine it. And then someone else. So he has that fear about investing really because they're not cheap bikes. You're going to pay for what you really want on them. And he has this fear of spending money on one of these. And, he's not that he's not mechanically savvy. He just doesn't want to do the work to stuff anymore. So he'd want to be able to rely on a service department to, help him out. And there's a fear about that on his end. So that's why he has the tentativeness, I guess, in really investing. Because it's like this whole, it's going to explode on me because that's what Harleys do type of thing. Which I find interesting that he has it, but that's what he has. I would think more people my age have that view. But that's his hard set view.
Yeah, you're definitely right on there on the older Harleys, especially 14 and on with the Rushmore. It's a different deal, but I get that with the dealership, which is just an interesting thing because I can think of a lot of companies, and I don't know if we want to go down that rabbit hole. Maybe you have a little input on that, but I think for so many years, Harley didn't have to treat their customers good. They were, you had these brand loyal, you mentioned it a little bit, people that, and I think that, like you said, it brings it back to some of the draw of my YouTube channel, maybe in this podcast, is that I love riding my Harleys, but I'm not afraid to be critical of them. And I don't think that was the case in the past. I think you still have some of those people. We get comments on our channel and stuff where Harley or die. And I'm like, well, that's just dumb. I mean, because how can you expect a company to improve if you're not critical of them?
If you're not critical about it.
I don't know. What do you think?
So for me so here's like something I look at with Harley, and they did. Years starting in I would say probably especially the early 70s, and probably about 20 years, at least 20 years after that, you just had a generation of people who that was the bike. I mean, you didn't really want some of the smaller CC bikes. They maybe didn't look right. They maybe didn't feel right. It had the made in America feeling in it. I've watched documentaries about not just Harley specifically, but other, manufacturers. And, Harley built up this really great image of this is like the made in America product. And, people who came back from service in the 40s from World War II, they all were able to buy back their Harleys they rode in World War II because they were beat to hell. And, they're not the Army wasn't going to do anything with them. So that's early on. Bam. They got these Harleys for dirt cheap. That was their bike. And then that gets ingrained in them over years and years and years. And I think people, it's not that I don't think it's like afraid of criticizing a product. It's that there was this really great thing that it's this great American product and you can't criticize that. And yeah, it might have its quirks, aka leaking oil everywhere and maybe not starting sometimes, but that's just part of the Harley. It's like old British sports cars. Half the charm of them is that they might start when you turn the key. But people got I think you're right. It's like almost like defensive over that. I see it with reviews. I'm partially obsessed with the new Indian Challenger. I think it's a cool looking bike except for one little panel on it, but that's about it. But I read reviews about it and almost every reviewer's like, it's just advanced. It has a much better suspension. The motor's so much more power. And they go on these things, but inevitably you'll find the comments like, oh, well, it's not a Harley, so therefore it must be bad. I'm like, if you're talking about aesthetics, which are completely subjective, sure, that's one thing. But mechanics, and you can't say it's bad just because it's not a Harley. And I think that was such a long-going thing in the market. It's like Chevy, Ford. There's always that debate. If it's not a Chevy, it's crap. If it's not a Ford, it's crap, and people go back and forth on that. So I think Harley's it's that little motorcycle sect involved in that.
Yeah. Good point. Yeah, the look's very subjective. Yeah, so if you're talking about mechanic, I think I would love to have an Indian too. We've had some guys around here with the Indians, and I'm just open to honestly to whoever's making the best kind of thing, and the Indians do have a different. I love that bike though. That's a good looking bike too. I know the one you're talking about. They're definitely on Harley's heels. Indian is, and I think that's why Harley is doing some of the things they do, because they for a long time there, like you said, they didn't have a lot of competition for kind of the bikes they were making. Well, now it's a whole new deal. Now you talk about a little bit, and I'm curious because you talk about early Harley and all that kind of stuff, and we're talking about the bikes and and the brand loyalness. This is something I find interesting. Is there was, to me it seems like, and I think it's fair to say that there was a lifestyle also attached to that, which has kind of dying. The motorcycle, bad boy, badass 1% club kind of thing has just kind of died over time. They still, exist in such a small amount, but without getting into crazy rabbit hole there. Is that lifestyle gone? Are people just over that? The tough biker guy is kind of gone.
I think. I don't think it's gone, because you definitely see some guys. At least when we did a birthday run a couple weeks ago for someone, and there was a group of those guys in that run, about like 15 of those 70 bikes that were actually with us. And so they're there, and it's like, I don't think it's not a bad thing they're there.
Right.
It's that they're part of the group. But what I do think is interesting, and I think I remember, this is something that you guys did a while ago, but other motorcycle vloggers have talked about this, like how Sons of Anarchy, in a very funny way, just kind of normalized that like the outlaw thing and made it a consumable product for people.
Right.
So instead of like, you see like a Hell's Angel, like in my area, I see outlaws and pagans riding around a fair amount. Not a fair amount, but you see them out on the roads. I don't get shocked by it. I've talked to some of the guys on the side of the road, like we're just hanging out. But you're not like, oh my God, it's not. It's like, no, it's just a guy. He's in a cut. and half the time you talk to them, they're nice guys to talk to.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah, right.
anything besides that, it's, but I think people aren't as concerned about being that tough guy because, it's like Sons of Anarchy. It's not real.
Right.
And, it's a show. I can buy a key fob thing that has it on there, or so. And I think it's now gotten to the point where there's a little bit of poking fun at it. Where it's like if you're really trying to be the tough guy, people are like, why are you trying to do that?
Yeah, right.
Right. If you're riding shirtless with a bandana on, doing 90 down the turnpike, people are like, no, you just look stupid. You don't look cool at this point.
Right. You're high or drunk. Yeah. Right.
yeah, exactly. So it's like, I think that appeal definitely lost, but I think, in a funny way, Sons of Anarchy really did that because it turned it into a product. It turned it into something that, a college student can watch, and then they used to like, oh, it's the outlaw biker life, and it's not this crazy thing anymore. It's now just a show,
right? That's great insight. And I bet people, on the road are like, hey, look, who don't know motorcycle, it's a Sons of Anarchy guy. You know what I mean? Look at
they don't know it's a made up thing,
right?
So yeah, I think that's a really big part of it, and and it's funny. My friends who don't ride, they have no interest in motorcycles. Every now and then they'll joke with me like, "Oh, like you and your Hell's Angels bikes are going out," but it's like a joke. It's not like, "Oh, are you afraid of those guys?" It's a joke.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
are you with a biker gang? Are you and your biker gang going around? No, I've heard those jokes, and you bring up some just awesome stuff. I love this conversation. But just over the last 10 years, and I've tried to break a lot of those barriers, hopefully with the channel and and some of that stuff, the tough guy biker, more of a community, because that's really what it always was, is, the motorcycle majority. It's just a bunch of good-hearted, people working, trying to ride, trying to get away. It's their freedom. It's their, but I've definitely seen over the last 10 years, that tough guy side of it really dwindle, and everybody's
dissolves away. Yeah.
It's dissolving. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It's just kind of dissolves. So it's interesting to see that transformation. So my question is, what's the HD draw anymore then? You know what I mean? I mean, what?
So I can talk for myself. Explicitly is that I've. Like you said, like I just like motorcycles, and it doesn't really matter what the badge on the bike says or anything like that. I just like bikes, in the same way I like cars. For me, what I love about Harleys, personally, I love the styling on a lot of Harleys. I mean, they designed a great bike 90% of the time, and a lot of other manufacturers can't say that.
Right? Yeah.
Even though some people like they're Ducati freaks, like, oh, Ducatis. I'm like, there's some Ducatis that are really ugly. And so like. But for me, I love the looks of them. There is something with the way they sound, especially my buddy's Fat Bob. He has a 103 twin cam with radius pipes. And it just sounds awesome. That's just a great sounding motorcycle. I took it around the block the other week. We were doing some work on it, and I was just smiling ear to ear because it sounds cool. It looks cool. So it's those things really, and after that. That's really the draw for me. It's really just I love the way they look. I love the way they sound. And obviously for someone who likes working on the aftermarket, range on them is endless. You can do anything to a Harley. Whereas with my V-Star, it's like I have to search day and night to find parts I want for it. Like if I went to get an exhaust and I had like 5 options that didn't require custom fabrications. With a Harley, I think there's probably like 30 different pipes for each bike.
Oh God,
yeah. So you have that ability for someone who likes tinkering on things. It's an appeal. You can really make it your own.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to sort of sidestep into one of the things about Harleys, which I think has changed for them, is that I would say a lot of riders that I've met recently that aren't just lifelong Harley riders, they're not into that type of tinkering as much anymore. Not to say that people still want to change their oil just for the ease of doing it, because it's a motorcycle, it's easy, but there's a lot of people that want to just be able to buy something out of the box effectively, and it has 90% of what they want on it, and if they want to do some little tweaks, that's fine. And now with motorcycles like a Harley, unless you're getting a Sportster, pretty much, you're spending, I think, MSRP is like 13, 14 grand for a new basic lowrider, I think, is like the MSRP on those. So it's like doing that and then wanting to customize it, that's a tall order. Or I can buy whether it's a V-Star or a Shadow or a Yamaha Bolt, which I've ridden those, and those are fun little Yamaha Sportsters pretty much. And just like the dollar for value on it is insane in comparison sometimes.
Yeah. Do you think
So
that's
like
do you think that's the new wave of generation that wants to buy stuff out of the box ready to go and they don't? You think that is? Because you're around more. Yeah.
I think so. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's like me, my buddy Christian. He's a mechanic. There's a lot of us who do like tinkering on things, but like I was listening to one motovlogger's comparison about I think it was he was talking about the Indian Challenger compared to the Road Glides. And I remember when he mentioned the suspension. I think the Indians have, I think it's like a Fox rear suspension on it, like a really new higher tech suspension. He's like, well, if I'm doing touring, I would want that suspension out of the box. And when I'm on the Harley and I've ridden it, and for me the comfort isn't there, blah blah blah. He's like, I would want to do that to the bike, but now I have to do that or pay the dealership to do it on a brand new motorcycle. It kind of like, why would I want A when I can have B, and for me it's better. And because they're so expensive, I mean, like, that's why I've not spent a whole lot of money on motorcycles and turn them into things I can ride, is because I don't have a lot of money to go around. And if I were to spend however much I want to spend on, the Road King I really want, that's like my dream. I love Road Kings, always have, always will.
Yeah.
It's either I'm going to buy one really cheap, I'm completely customize it, or I'm going to spend all the money on it fundamentally new, but it really needs to be pretty much great out of the box. And then over time, I can kind of tweak it. But there's a money factor there. My generation, we're worried about trying to buy a house. I'm 28 and I finally bought my house, and not a lot of my friends are there yet. Student loan debts are huge. It's, there's a lot of things that the idea of spending that much money on for what for most people is going to be just a fun thing, it's really not there. Even though a lot of people my age love putting shit on credit cards or things on credit cards, that idea of just having more is, I think, to a lot of people, just not in the mindset.
Right. So not necessity, a Harley, very expensive luxury, basically. And
luxury, exactly.
And a lot of people are more, looking at the price of it. That brings up another point, is a lot of guys say Harley's just pricing themselves out of the market completely.
I mean, I think people can say that, but I actually really don't believe that in certain ways. What I would like to see them do is, they started, I think, they kind of like buckshotted what they want to do. So like the electric motorcycle, they want to do a street fire, they want to do an adventure bike, they want to get in those markets, but they try to do it so fast, so quickly. I think in one sense that it's so wrong. That's a lot of things. You're trying to build motorcycles you've never built before, and now you're competing against other brands who that's their bread and butter. I mean, you can go out and buy a Yamaha FZ07 naked bike. That's a great commuter, really cheap, good on gas, extremely reliable, for pennies. But you're going to bring out a naked bike that's going to cost, I don't know, at least $10,000 new, and it's unproven with technology you're doing for the first time. And then you're also trying to. I think they rushed the gun because they realized how far behind they are, and that kind of shot them further in the foot. And I know a lot of people that are around my age. We have no problem going out and buying like an 84 Magna for $700, and if we're mechanically inclined, shit, we'll put $300 of parts into it. We got our motorcycle running. That's our motorcycle, and it's ours, and it costs $1,000. We can commute on it for nothing. So why spend that money on even if it's just the Sportster or even the street 750s, which, not that they're expensive bikes, but, I've ridden them. They're not, I don't personally like them. I think they're kind of made to a very low price point, and they just have the Harley badge on them. That's my opinion.
Ride longer and treat your ass with some respect already. Get hooked up with a premium butt buffer seat cushion. This company of bikers developed a super thin hospital-grade seat cushion made of solid and elastic materials. And it's unlike those gel pads. that will leak if punctured. The butt buffer is designed not to slide around in your seat, fits all motorcycles, installs in seconds, easily cleans, and helps to dampen vibrations. With plenty of models to choose from, they assure you'll have a comfortable ass when riding. Head over to the Law Abiding Biker store and check out our lineup of butt buffer seat cushions. Yeah. No, there's some very interesting points that I'm just thinking about. And you bring up like the shotgun effect. I'm glad you said that, because I kind of felt the same way. Is maybe they should have, they're far behind, and now, like you say, they're trying to do a whole bunch of stuff at once, which can get unorganized. And then, like, they brought out the Livewire, and that's for your first electric bike, that's freaking expensive, which is why they're not selling any. Like, and I don't know what went into the R&D on that. And I know they got, and then they're going to bring out the Adventure bike, which I think is kind of cool. And I'm glad they're getting into these. It looks great. I'm afraid it's going to be heavily overpriced again, and they're going to price themselves. Maybe that's okay with them because it's their first run at something. Maybe they have that strategy in mind that they're just not going to sell the first couple, but they're kind of going to beta test them, so to speak, with the public. I don't know.
And they could totally do that. And I think that they caught people's attention, but I know, from just gathering information from other, writers or vloggers, even, you talk about in your podcast too, is that when you're doing something for the first time, just inevitably you're going to have, teething problems, or the product might come out and you realize that, it really doesn't live up to the standard. Because I think for me, like, I look at that adventure bike and I think of like a Triumph Tiger, like the big one, like I think it's 1200 now, or the BMW GS, like that. It's a big, heavy, expensive luxury touring bike that, it's an adventure bike and you could take it on fire trails.
Right.
But it's one of those, and BMW has that market down. Triumph has that market down. So if you're trying to step into that door, the adventure door, and that's your entry, to me, it's like, wouldn't you rather maybe put out like a 600 adventure bike, something just a little bit smaller, a little bit cheaper, just to really test the waters of the technology you're using before you really throw the money down like such a big price item? Because I really think people and joke. We have a friend who he has a couple BMWs. They're awesome bikes, but he gets a little bit of joking around like, man, you spent all that money on that BMW, but it's a great motorcycle. They've honed it down. You ride one of those, and it's like, well, this is in a lot of ways perfect. You can't really argue with them. And I think Harleys, they're testing the grounds with that competition, and that's a pretty hard thing to do. In the Street Fighter line too, they're entering a market where you have KTM Dukes, you have Yamaha FZ09s, you have Ducati Monsters, you have all these great bikes already in that market. And I think unless that price point is lower than what we think it's going to be, and they just build that great of a motor, I don't know. I think the competition is really going to give them a kicking, because you're trying to pry people away from these established bikes. And it's kind of like, Harley, why are you trying to do a sport bike? This is weird. You really have to convince people a lot harder to buy that bike than you're trying to just bring out a more modern equipped cruiser. People know you make cruisers, you make a more modern with modern components or modern all that, then okay, you just stepped the game up, great. But trying to do something for the very first time, and going after the gold standard, that's a lot harder.
Right. Yeah,
a little more expensive.
Yeah, I agree. If they would have come in, now the only way I see that they could really kill it is they'd have to come in and put their bikes up, the bikes you mentioned, right? Whether it's the Street Fighter or the Adventure, up against those at a much less price point. That will catch people's attention. I don't know financially if they can do that. My other, question off that is, so it's kind of like they're backed into a corner, like, and I get it. I agree with you on that, but what if they don't innovate? They got to do something, whether they're doing it right or wrong. What if they just stayed and didn't do this? Are they dead?
So I watched I think you mentioned too, the Fort Nine's video about Harley.
Yeah, right.
And his little conclusion in a joking way was pretty much that, like, well, just sit on what you do best, ride it out until you simmer out and the fire's gone. Which it's funny, but I mean, I don't think that if they keep doing what they're doing, that they're necessarily going to die. I think they have to readjust how they not just make their product, because people love their product, but as I mentioned to you, I think it's more so about they haven't connected with the new audience. To me, it's correctly, because I work in the industry. I know some people might say it's correctly, but I mean, yeah, there's a price point thing, but if you sell people on the idea of something and really say, like, not only is this a good product, but we're a brand that you want to do business with, you'll convince people to buy your product left and right. I mean, a funny example is Mac. I mean, I switched over to Macs over 10 years ago, and it was a big investment switch over.
Same here, bro.
But you know what?
Yeah.
But I got the computer. I liked how they work. I went to the Apple store. I just kind of did, just a course to learn Apple. That's just because I haven't been used to it. The people at the store were really nice. They were offered all the help. I've talked to tech support. They're super helpful. And I'm never going back to PCs because of that. It's a more expensive investment than buying another HP laptop or something like that, but it's a great product and the customer support's there. And I know that if I have issues, there's going to be someone there to help me out with it. And this is why, like I mentioned before, I think the biggest thing that's changed with, I'm going to say, my generation coming into the younger generation, Gen Z, is that, we don't have a brand loyalty bug. That was something that was big in the marketing up through really kind of like the 80s is when that really stopped, or stopped being effective. So it's really hard to find people in my age who are just inherently, a Ford person, inherently, I don't know, like a GE products person. It just doesn't matter, because what we do is we go online, we go into Google and say, best refrigerators for 2020, and pull up 5 lists that show us what the best refrigerators in 2020 are, and then we go with the best deal at our price point. So the name attached to it doesn't really mean a whole lot as long as we can back it up with proof. My phone just fell.
Yeah, that's all right. No worries.
So one of the things that I know I have an issue with, and for me going into it's not a big deal because servicing bikes is something that I like doing, but when you have, and you've mentioned these discrepancies with different dealers and service departments. So let's say like, next year I get an awesome raise. I get something, I can buy a Harley, and not only can I buy a Harley, I'm buying my Road King Special. I'm throwing the money down. I'm super excited about it. And I didn't listen to your podcast. I throw a set of, Vance & Hines pipes on it. I go get the brake and service done. And then like a month or two later, I notice, I don't know, maybe a dummy light comes on. And then my warranty I paid for is out of service, or it's now voided because of that, because the dealer by me and they didn't tell me about it also. They saw it when I did my service. Now 2 months later, they're now telling me that, oh, by the way, we're not going to cover your warranty because those Vance & Hines pipes are on there, which is bullshit, right? Mm-hmm. That to me, even though it's not the manufacturer's fault, or it's not the person who built the bike, it's not the mechanical components of the motorcycle, I still might love that bike. But if I'm going to have those type of issues, especially considering the money I put down on it, what are we doing here? And that's a big part of it, at least to me. And I know, and I'm sure you can share way more experience than I've had having to kind of talk to people who've had those issues and the frustrations it brings about,
Right. And I think, it brings up an interesting point that, and I've said it before, for so many years, Harley, okay, I remember the days when like you had to wait for your Harley to arrive at the dealership. Like you ordered it and they had to get it, right? Like they never had to work at selling their bikes. In fact, there weren't a lot of times enough bikes. People would want a certain model or color and there just wasn't any, right? And I think that they built up this, within Harley-Davidson and at their dealerships, they built up this kind of arrogance. Now, I'm not saying all of them. I know some really good salesmen. I know a lot of good mechanics, some good people. But I think overall, they kind of built up this arrogance where they didn't really have to sell bikes. Like, you're coming to us, you want a bike, I'll tell you if I can even get it for you, right? And so it's different than car lots, right? And so I think the whole company has to morph into this new role of, okay, now we are actually competing and there are other options and we have a different generation and we're actually going to have to treat people well And they're not just going to throw their money at us because they're brand loyal idiots. You know, they're gonna work. And I don't think that has caught up. The culture has not caught up to the company. Yeah,
I would totally agree with that. And, you know, another thing I can say going off of that is that it's funny. I just watched there's one moto vlogger. I don't know if you've seen about Shade Tree Surgeon on YouTube. I think he lives in Florida. He's kind of like a pirate-looking dude.
Okay, I have before, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, and he just actually had a long-term loaner Road King from a Harley dealership in Florida. And I just watched his review, and he was like, I didn't want to give a review on this bike during it because I wanted to get done and really be able to say what I wanted to say about it. I mean, it turns out he loved the bike, so it wasn't anything, you know, crazy. But I thought it was kind of interesting. He made a point to say that I wanted to wait until I got done the loaner from Harley before I really gave my review on it. And I think that points to a thing where, you know, he, as someone who has a following, has a membership, a pretty good viewership, he's not a huge channel, but it's a very loyal channel. He shouldn't be afraid of getting any type of blowback from a manufacturer by giving a review on it. I mean, I've seen reviews from people talking about like Cena products or Revit products and all that. And they can talk about it. It's not a big deal. It's, you know, I like this product for these reasons. It kind of has these negative faults, whatever. But there's this weird hesitation from him about, I really like, if I didn't like it, I didn't want to say anything while I sold the bike, because it sounded like he was almost afraid that they would say, all right, now give the bike back, even though it was, you know what I mean? Which is, it's stupid. I mean, nowadays,
that's a fine line. Yeah, you can't walk that line.
Yeah.
You got to tell companies up front, I'm going to say what I'm going to say. You better, you know.
Yeah, you got to. I mean, and you do really good reviews about. So I think you understand the. It's weird. Like you don't want to just completely bash a company if you don't like a product, but at the same time, I'm doing a review. I need to tell people who are counting on me in this instance to give my opinion. I need to give them what my honest opinion is. And people shouldn't be afraid to do that. Whereas I think, you know, going back what you're saying, like 20, 30 years maybe, you know, that idea was crazy. You didn't have people doing these type of reviews on products. You had a couple like magazines writing reviews, and a lot of those magazines were sponsored by Harley, so they're not going to say anything bad about them. They're getting ad revenue from them. They're getting readership from them. They're getting sponsored at events by them. They're not going to say bad things about them.
Right, which is the reason it all has to be disclosed now through the FTC. Yeah. This is an affiliate. This is a sponsored video because that shit was going on for a long time.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, it's funny. There's a lot of people that, you know, I've tried to tell some of my friends about, like, some of the work I've done in relation, like that specific thing, where if you're reading a review on something, you need to see where that review is coming from, because that company, even though you might have no idea, it could be sponsored by the product that's reviewing it. And at that point, you're not a review. You're literally giving the company's opinion about the product. Because if they're giving you money to say, oh, talk about our Bluetooth speaker system, but they're giving you money for it, and you're not gonna
right, especially if you don't say anything bad at all. All of a sudden, you're like, okay, there's something bad about everything. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not, and that's it. It's like, I mean, you know about it. You have Harley-Davidson's. You have how many friends of yours have spent, you know, money on these bikes? Mm-hmm. It's not that you would ever want to just trash Harley because you like the product, but it's like, hey, some things aren't, you know, are the way we think it should be, you know?
Right. There's nothing perfect. I've yet to buy a perfect product of anything, right? There's always going to be some pros, and there's always going to probably be at least one con, right?
Yeah.
At least be honest. Always give some cons, you know? Mm-hmm. Oh, man, good stuff. I want to dive in. I got a good question for you here, and we'll do this real quick. Hey, Bikeaholics, you searching for the easiest and quickest detachable luggage system for your motorcycle? Rick Rack has just what you're looking for. Forget all those frustrating straps and bungee cords that can come loose and slap your paint. Check out one of Rick Rack's awesome quick attach strapless luggage rack systems. This father-son team designed something really special. Can't find it anywhere else. Yep, these guys ride so they truly understand the needs of bikers. The Rick Rack quick attach system is strong, durable, and secure with a lockable system. Also, check out their full line of quality touring bags to accompany your quick detach system. Once you use Rick Rack, you'll never go back. What are you waiting for, Bikeaholics? Head over to the Law-Abiding Biker store. Check out our full line of Rick Rack systems and bags. Oh, yeah. All right. So, Great conversation, man. I love this stuff. I love that. I could go here and here. I got to try to stay focused.
I joked about in my email. I said I can kind of do these, these rambles when I get it, onto a topic. So
people that know me by now listen to the podcast. You're like, oh, that guy can just completely get off track. But that's the fun because they're natural conversations. So so marketing wise, and I've talked about it, and you've probably seen a few of those videos, and you listen to the podcast. And I think that was with Matt Pass from California, the one you listened to. Great guy. So I love.
Knowledgeable too.
Yeah, he is. He's fun to talk to. You're great to talk to too. Anytime you want to be on the podcast, by the way, you want to get back on, you just let me know. But
I'll be there. I'll bug you.
Please do, man. I love having people. I want more remote hosts and stuff. I love this. I love it. So, especially people that are knowledgeable in the industry like you. So their whole marketing thing to try to draw the new, age of riders. What's going on there? Are they doing it correctly? You've done rebranding. You talked about that. Do they rebrand? Tell me what your thoughts are here on this whole deal. Are they appealing to you or are people younger than you or not?
So no, they're not appealing to what I think people my age and younger would like to. I think, and it's not just like to see, but it's what would catch our interest right now. Because, let's put it this way: if my generation, if we want a luxury item, we'll do the research for it. We don't need you to sell us on your luxury item. We'll find you. It's kind of like a lot of the high-end car manufacturers. They don't spend money on advertising on TV because if you want them, you're going to go find them, right?
Can I ask you? I hate interrupting people when they're on. Yeah. I have to on this one because it's a burning question. People, and I know I do it now. I don't think this is generational now. Mm-hmm. I think it's because of the way social media is and what we have access to. And we talked about a little bit YouTube reviews and things like that. So if you're going to buy a new product, regardless if it's a Harley, it's not really, and I think Harley's missing the mark here because I don't really give a shit what Harley says about their stuff. Okay?
Exactly.
What I care about is what Michael Rubinson, if he's a YouTuber, right? Or any of the other, or my channel. I care. So I don't care what it is I'm buying. I'm going to the influencers, right? If we want to use that term, some people like it, some don't. Influence marketing, right?
It's a term, yeah.
It's a term. I know.
Nothing wrong with using it.
Okay, I know some people get mad about that term, but whatever you want to call it, that's I think where people are turning to, to because it's an honest. If they know, like, and trust that person, they know that we talked about it with the honest review of that. And the second prong to that question, and then you just go. The second prong to that question is, I still find it interesting. It sounds like this one guy, they gave a Harley to. They really haven't done that, and so I've said it. I do a lot of tech stuff. I have tech all over this place. Okay, camera reviews and all kinds of stuff. These smart companies are sending. Apple does it. DJI does it. I own multiple drones.
The drones, yeah.
They send them to the influencers like 2 weeks before. They give them time to review them. They can't release their videos till 3.
The embargo,
right? Exactly, the embargo. Why the hell has Harley not figured this out? Like they should be, and I'm not asking for a motorcycle. In fact, Harley probably hates my guts, and that's fine. I've built. I agree, and thank you. So just roll with that. Roll with that.
So, I'm gonna try and break it down.
There's a lot there. I'm sorry.
No, but I'm glad. I just opened a brand new beer, so
that's nice
to open it. So you're extremely right in one sense where they shouldn't, I guess, hate you or hate other influencers like you. And it's not really hate. I think it's more so they shouldn't be afraid to give their products to you, because that's what's catching people's attention now. Your attention span nowadays, especially, the millennial generation and younger, it's proven we have very short attention spans as far as, especially when it comes to entertainment. Anything entertainment, anything reading wise, we're just not, it's that's why movies nowadays, every 10 seconds there's some type of weird CGI or explosion or something, because you can't just sit down and watch, a dialogue. It's too much. And I think what they're hesitant on is not necessarily getting called out for what they know is wrong, but if you go on, I mean, I'm sure you've done it for curiosity, because I do it every now and then, is you go online and say, I'm just giving a model right now. Oh, like, so new Softail Standard review, right? It's a brand new bike. And you're going to see this litany of people who love it, who hate it, who are going to bash Harley, who are going to love Harley. And I think what they're afraid of is that negative stuff, because years ago that would really make a big difference with, market share, and people really want to go out and buy the products. If someone says something negative about a product, it then automatically will mean, oh, well, then now no one's going to buy it. We have to defend our product now, which isn't the case now, because, a lot of modern marketing is built on the idea of like an honest two-way communication, where the manufacturer or seller of a product, they can openly say, we want your opinion. The consumer, they can give their opinion back, and it's a real conversation. It's not just them trying to just tell you stuff and hoping that you would believe them, because you can't. How many times do you see like a torque figure on a motorcycle, and you immediately go, this seems kind of odd. You Google it and you go on, topspeed.com, and they have a different figure. So they shouldn't be afraid of the negative comments, because everyone gets them. Every product does. I mean, like, right. I love my Cena headset. I still run a 10S because I just still have it. I love it. There's negative things I think about it. That doesn't mean I'm not going to buy another Cena, because the good outweighs the bad, and I like the product a lot. And I think they're afraid of that, and I don't think they've realized it's something I remember that was mentioned. I can't remember if it was you or Matt who brought it up, but it was the return on investment that they get from just, whether it's Fortnite, who has a huge YouTube following, right, or just any of the other motorcycle vloggers. Like, give them a bike for a month, right, and say, here's the bike, pick it up here. We'll drop it back off the dealership here. You can put out a video on it. If it's a brand new model, I mean, yeah, like you said, they put those embargoes on. Like, we're not officially releasing until then, so you can't explicitly say anything. But they want you to tease it, though. That's the important thing. Those guys should be able to tease it. Like, oh, I got this cool new bike. # maybe HD type of thing. And they build up anticipation. So Harley can have their people do marketing for them, do social media research for them, do communication on behalf of the brand once the video is released. Because then people are going to be asking Fortnite, hey man, what's that motor? What's the torque on it? What's the seating position? And he's going to tell them for it. So like nowadays you can get free advertising and marketing from these influencers that's not just coming from the brand if you do it right. So this way people are going to be more inclined to listen, believe it, trust what you're saying. And they can just kind of sit back, take the bike back, give it to someone else as a loaner, or, however they decide to sell it off later. And now it's also not on their hands. They just ran a marketing campaign that they don't have to worry about. And what I think is crazy is that Harley's the type of brand, too, that you already have such a history, such an established name, that it's like you don't have to convince people that you're a good brand. You just need to continue on the belief that your products are still worth buying. Which right. It really isn't as, I don't want to say hard, but it's not as tricky as bringing a brand new company in today's marketplace, like Zero Motorcycles. Right. They're, from what I can tell, I've never ridden one. They have their faults, but a lot of people really like the advancement they've come, and hopefully they stay around for a while. I think that's really great. But they have a harder time convincing people to buy their bikes than Harley will ever have if they just take that modern approach.
Yep. And one of the big things to me is, they're 10 years behind because, like you say, and you see a lot of this stuff, the tech industry has figured this out a long time ago. This isn't like new. They've been doing this for years, and Harley just can't. They still do this old school. We're the company and you're the customer. It's not the way it works these days. Okay. Correct. You have to connect with your community, and communities like here are huge communities. And we have the platform, we have the community. You got to get in front of those communities because this is where a lot of their customers are, right? And other channels. That's where, and that's what I just see them failing. They're still doing these overproduced commercials. They don't, and they still go into celebrities, and nobody, you can speak for that. I don't care that you gave one to Aquaman. I don't care. It doesn't make me want to buy. I would rather go to a YouTube. I don't care that you gave an iPhone or a drone to any of those people, because I'm going to go to my trusted YouTube sources of the tech channels I watch, and that's where I'm going to find out if this thing's worthwhile and what's its pros and what's its cons. And I just can't understand, I've ranted about it before. And I know Matt passed it too. I just can't understand, because that's literally 10 years behind the curve. Giving the Harley to a motorcycle, I'm sorry. I'm surprised the magazine industry is still alive. It struggles.
It's remarkable.
It's remarkable.
In a lot of ways.
Yeah, and I'm sorry if somebody out there works for magazine. I'm sorry, but that's dying. It's like radio. It's like traditional radio is dying. And because we progress as a society and technology and things, podcasts are way more popular than traditional radio these days. And that's where a lot of companies are taking their advertising money because they realize, you've got all those ears interested in a particular subject. So I just feel like, they're still doing the over, that's why their YouTube channel is not popular, because they tried, like every company. Don't you love how companies, we got to start a YouTube channel. Everybody's doing it. Well, you can't just start a YouTube channel. It's a community, and there's a following, and it's a community. It takes time to build, and you can't, I don't care if you're Gucci or whoever you are. You're not going to have a huge YouTube following. You can't just make videos and expect people to watch them. It's just not the way it works.
Because the attention span's so little that you're just like, oh, it's another video from
overproduced.
I'm not gonna, you're not going to get it. Now, actually, I have a question for you.
Yeah. What's up?
That you brought up on the last podcast was, you guys had mentioned how a lot of people have felt as if Harley's almost leaving them behind. For me, it's I kind of see from an outside perspective, because obviously I don't own a Harley. I haven't had many Harleys, so it's kind of hard for me to see it. But I guess how do you feel as though that they've left kind of, I'm just going to say the 40, 45 and older group effectively behind as far as trying to stay connected, or is it what exactly have they done that brings out that feeling? Yeah,
that's interesting. I think the from what I've seen on the comments, the tons of comments on some of those videos that I've done in the podcast, is people feel like they've left them behind because, again, and I'm not sure it's. I'll say this up front that I'm not sure it's warranted. So, but perception is reality, right? And so if your company has a perception by its customers, then you have to try to fix that regardless if it's reality. Okay. But most of them feel like is because they went and they made all these new bikes. Okay. So a lot of the marketing they've done recently within the past years is exactly what I said. They went to these Hollywood people. They went to X Games, and they're giving motorcycles to people that don't ride motorcycles. Again, it goes back to that really fine line of a lifestyle was a lot of their draw. It was a lifestyle. And so a lot of those aged people feel like, well, you don't give a shit about us anymore. Yeah, you still make the Street Glide, your top selling bike of all time, and you still make this stuff, but you're not really catering to us. You're not the warranty issues, the way dealerships are treating them, $350 oil changes, all these things. And especially it was the marketing. It was their failure in marketing. It's fine to market to a new generation. I think that's fine. And I think everybody gets that. They've got to, anybody reasonable would understand if the company wants to exist, it has to change with those times. But in the meantime, they should be, and we've already talked about it, they should be reaching out to, and again, I'm not promoting that you reach out to me personally, I don't care, but to where the communities are and talking. YouTube is one. If you look at YouTube has made a lot of mistakes. They're growing so fast. They've made mistakes with creators. Okay. But you were mentioning,
about a year and a half ago, there was, it just started to implode because they changed their, the ratings, the demonetization.
Yep, demonetizations and all kinds of stuff. And it's constantly changing. But the good thing they do is the CEO, you know, and the head of their YouTube platform got on channels, on some of the bigger channels, and just sat down with them like no armor and said, we know we're making mistakes, but we're here for you, and we're taking your feedback, and we're going to get better. And together, see, Hardy, to me, Harley's, right.
Yeah.
I just feel like Hardy doesn't do that. They just still think we're God, and you guys are the peon customers. You're going to buy our bikes whether you like it or not. And that may be wrong or right, but I think that's why people feel left behind.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I think, and there is definitely a section of their market ship that they are just going to buy the Harleys no matter what, because that's, I mean, like I said, you go to any motorcycle review video, there's going to be someone in there in the comments saying that, oh, well, it's not in HD, so it sucks.
Right,
It doesn't matter what the bike is. It could be a Grom.
Right, yeah.
Just say it's not a Harley Grom, so it's
yeah.
So they definitely, it's funny, like they have, you know, I think it's funny in one sense because they have such a great loyalty in one sense that they've built over the years, but they're having such a hard time transitioning to, all right, well, we don't have the loyalty now in the new generation. We just need to show them that we're worth the purchase price. And I think one thing that I think you asked before was like, oh, are they outpricing themselves in the market? Well, if you look at, and a lot of people do joke around with that, but it's like, well, if you really look at what you're getting, and a lot of Harleys I would consider are in either small touring or large touring bikes. I mean, obviously you're talking about certain Sportsters, you're not going to tour in them. Obviously not the Streets, a couple other bikes, but you can ride long-ish distances on most of their bikes, unless you have bad knees, bad hips, whatever. And, you know, I mean, I was riding a Softail Slim the other day, and it was comfortable. Would I want to do multiple hundreds of miles on in a day? Maybe not that much, but you can still travel 100, 150 miles a day and you'd be fine, right? And so when you look at other motorcycles that you could comfortably do that on, like, I don't know any people that would do that on any type of sport bike, even most upright bikes. It's a little bit better than a leaned over super sport, but you're not doing it so much. So now you're into adventure bikes, which are expensive. Most of the newer adventure bikes are 10 grand or up, unless you're getting a new KT. Well, actually, no, the KLR that's discontinued now, I think, right?
Yep. Right.
So it's like, I don't think that it's necessarily they've outpriced themselves in certain ways. It's just that there's so many other options on the market, and they've done a better job. The other options have done just a better job of staying in contact with people. That, I mean, I saw a bunch of people recently, I think it was like a few months ago, they were out in somewhere in the Middle East demoing the new Triumph Tiger. Triumph paid a bunch of YouTubers and influencers and reviewers, hey, come out to the Middle East, I can't remember where they were, and ride these new 900s around for a while. Right. That's awesome.
Welcome to 2010. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I mean, it's just like Triumph's doing that, and Harley's still, like, let's shoot, like you said, let's shoot a Hollywood commercial, and that's going to get people to buy our new Sportster, the Iron 83. It's like, no, they're not. It's not going to happen. And like I said, for me, it's funny, and I don't know why they're still far behind on this. It's not their small company that doesn't have access to research, advertising departments, marketing divisions. They can just look at other brands that are in their similar industry, what they do. It shouldn't be hard, I guess, is what that little rant is. It shouldn't be hard for them to just take a look around and say, we haven't been doing this right for the past few years. We need to go down this road now.
Yeah, I know. And I just can't figure it out to this day. I just can't figure out what is the holdup in Harley marketing. They just need somebody to gut it in there. It's like, and I'm no expert. I'm just like, you guys are so doing it different than like every other company and industry. I'm like, what? Yeah. Like, don't you watch, like, don't you even get online? Like, you can't do it that way anymore. And so that's just one of the frustrating things, that a lot of people are frustrated with. What do you think Harley can do better to reach, your demographic or even younger? What could they do right now besides those things? Is there anything else?
Yeah. I was going to say, like, besides the other things, which are like a majority, but one thing I think is very important is that nowadays for my demographic, like I said, the idea of having a luxury item at that high dollar amount, it's a little bit daunting because we don't have that ton of money. I mean, people like I said, I just bought my first house. A lot of people that are in my age bracket, they're not there yet. They're still renting. They don't even know when they're going to buy their own house. They might lease their car, but they're leasing their car. They're not worrying about it. It's just they get it for 3 years. They put 30,000 miles on it. They turn in. They don't got to worry about it. So it's kind of this weird thing. It's like, how do you convince someone that either this is an unnecessary item that you do need and we're the best at doing it, or you need to make it look like actually this could be a necessity, like a commuter item. Like this is a great alternative to having a car for all these great reasons, which once again, if you like, it's hard to sell because I live in New Jersey. We have all 4 seasons. So for, 3 months of the year, it's kind of hard to ride the bike. I got some good gear, so I was able to ride through most of the winter, but you have to convince people to do that. I'm a little crazy like some of, the other lab crew is. I'll ride through the winter as long as there's not ice on the ground. I don't really care.
Attaboy.
So I bought the riding pants. Like I think it was the Olympia Century ones. They're a little bit clunky, but they keep me nice and warm. But you're almost having to like show people that doing this kind of oddball thing is a great alternative, and here's a good reason why you should do it. And nowadays, with any bit of research, you can throw out any lies that you're going to market to people like that you used to be able to do 30 years ago, right? So how do you sell someone on a motorcycle, let's say, is $15,000 to $20,000? I mean, you could buy a Sportster for less, but I don't know many people that buy Sportsters unless they're used and they're literally buying it for cheap and they're using it as a project bike or it's their first runner for a year or so. So that's why I go right to that $15,000 mark, because that's the entry Softail line. So how you have to convince us that either this luxury is worth having other than a nicer car, high-tech equipment, other than going on trips. Like I choose not to go on vacations my friend go on because I'd rather get on the bike and do my rides. That's a difference. So I think that for them, it's that they haven't shown my generation, who doesn't really have an itch to be on motorcycles like I did, that this is that fun thing that you can do as your extra activity. This is worth that money, whether you're going to buy a used one, whether you're going to spend the money on a brand new one. Like this is how we can make it fun for you. You create that good service network and reliability. And it's like in communication, I think you talk all the time, is that, we need to be able to go to any dealership in the country if we're on our trips and know that we're going to get great service. Like Apple laptops. I can go to any Apple store and I know they're going to treat me right. You don't necessarily know that, unfortunately, I think, with Harley. And there's other manufacturers that have that same problem. I don't want to pick on Harley specifically for that, but they're struggling. So,
right.
And like I said, my friend Christian has had the issue with the dealership near us. Someone else I've recently did a couple of rides with, he had a similar issue where he doesn't think they changed the oil. We think that they just topped off the oil and said, all right, it's on its level, it's good to go. Because we changed the oil at maybe that one was 1,500 miles on that Heritage. Pitch black, dirty, just there's no way.
No.
And he paid for it. So, and I know a lot of people, and they joke about it. It's like, oh, well, your generation doesn't know how to wrench on things, so why do you have to rely on the dealership? It's like, well, for us, we're paying the money for it. If we're going to spend that money and probably buy the warranty on it because you want that peace of mind on your luxury item, which is what it is now, you're going to get the warranty. You want that peace of mind, and if it's that hassle then to use it, or you don't know what dealership's going to treat you with one way, like the one that's right down the street from me, I think is going to be terrible, but the one 20 miles away in PA, I'm going to rather go to them to do my service just because they're better. That just seems silly, right?
What company does that? But it's true.
Exactly.
It's like actually a reality.
It's actually a reality. There's a guy in a New Jersey motorcycle group, motorcycle club, Facebook club I'm in, and there's someone that he knows that works at a dealership in PA. That's the one I just mentioned it briefly, but and everyone loves this particular dealership. People that live in New Jersey will drive to PA to go to this particular Harley dealership to buy their bikes, get them serviced there, because it has that better reputation. Yet the one that's 10 minutes from my house, it has a bad name, and that's terrible. You can't have that because that's your face-to-face contact. Because once again, my generation, we can go on our phones, on a computer, we can look up everything we need to look up on it. We don't need you to tell us like what size bolt is on the oil pan. We can look it up. It's not that hard, right? But if we have to go to that dealership, we need that person to be able to communicate with us effectively and know that we're going to get the right information there, because that's when we're actually having to trust another person. Because otherwise, we don't need it. We have the phone, right? And I think I really do believe Harley has a problem. Like I said, I mean, like we mentioned, my dad is petrified to buy a Harley. So he's afraid he's going to have it in the dealer all the time, paying money on service. And whether that's right or it's wrong, or, you know, he's stuck in that old mindset, that's what he's afraid of. And it's not that he can't buy one. It's not that it would, you know, bankrupt him. Like, he can totally buy the street glide he wants. He doesn't want to put that money down right now because he's afraid of what'll happen if he has to take it to get work done, which is a really silly thing to have, to me at least.
Yeah, man.
I'll preface. I'll use my good communication skills. In my opinion, that's the
Yeah. Oh man, you got a lot to unpack. That's good. So I want to piggyback just briefly on that. Interesting points, and you know, I think that's one thing, and we mentioned it a little bit, is where Harley didn't have to sell bikes before they sold themselves.
Yeah.
I think if Harley, and you get it with like Apple, like we'll just use Apple as an example. Like, I run my business around Apple. I think we've got 7 computers here, and I give them, and we've got, so, you know, there's a community around that. And when you go into an Apple store, you feel very welcome. You don't feel like an outsider. Even if you walked in there and I'm just telling you, we work with computers, right? For your job, I'm sure you work with a lot of computers. We know computers, but I'm telling you, if you go in there and you don't feel like you know a lot about computers, you aren't heckled, you aren't made feel. In fact, they present classes and sessions. I see them when I walk in the Apple store.
And also, how nice is it is that you can go in there, you can set an appointment online before you even go in the store. You go in the store, and someone comes up and greets you, and they say, hey, you know, how are you doing? You know, what are you here for? It's like, oh, I have an appointment. They can look up your appointment and say, oh, Mike, hey, you're in to get this work done. Awesome. Here, have a seat right here. And, you know, so-and-so will be right over you. Then that person comes up. They already have your information. They say, hey, I hear you're into, you know, do a Photoshop class or something like that. Bam, you're right there. You're talking with them, and it's done.
It's brilliant.
It's great. Whereas, you know, and it's funny, like I said before, it's like I don't want to just like pick on Harley, because like there's other brands that have these issues too.
It's true.
But this is a motorcycle podcast. We're talking about Harley, so that's the thing. My buddy Christian, he ordered all the stuff to do his own oil change. You know, all 3-hole oil change. He also we bled the brakes on his bike too and all this stuff. But he wanted all the parts for it they needed, and they didn't. You know, he was missing the gear oil for the primary, and also a new gasket too. And he's like, I specified in the email and when I talked to the guy in the service that he was getting it. And he's like, I didn't want to feel like an a-hole unpacking the box in front of him, because like, you don't want to do that. But he's like, I should have opened the damn. He's like, I'm a master mechanic. I know better, but I didn't want to make the guy at the desk, you know, feel any type of way. But he's like, I should have done it, because now, and then he had to go back and get the right. Such a dumb thing.
It is.
And when you're talking about, you know, I call it a high-end luxury item because, you know, not to us. I mean, we love riding, and, you know, like I said, for me, it's like just a way of getting out. So, like, I need to ride at this point in my life. But for a lot of other people, it's viewed as a luxury item and not a cheap one. And that's just something you don't want to have to worry about when you're doing, especially with something that you literally have to, your life depends on that running properly or being maintained right, or, you know, so, and it's just, and I could talk about Christian, the experience that he had with his, because it was a very firsthand experience for me. You know, when we did the research on his bike, once again, we didn't need the shop. We did the research. You know, I think the motor needs I think it was 2.4 quarts of oil, I think, to do the change with the filter. And we opened up his air filter to place it, and the whole inside of the filter and the throttle body were caked in oil. So it was totally overfilled, and it was just blowing oil back through the throttle bodies. And we're like, this seems ridiculous. And it just was inspected 2,000 miles ago. And it was overfilled. And it was like, I'm looking at this, I'm like, why would, and he even said, he's like, why would I take my bike back here? I'm like, yeah, why would you? I wouldn't. I don't trust them for that. And I keep talking about, but that's how you ruin a reputation of a brand nowadays. It's not that you can read a bad review for something online, and it's inconsequential because you can find other reviews that like it. But when you have to rely on a person-to-person contact for something, and there's no way to go about it, you need that person to get your product, whether it's repaired, serviced, purchased. I said deal with it with my house, and you have to rely on them, and they're letting you down in just dumb ways. You then lose trust very quickly with the brand. And it's not necessarily the brand's fault. It's not necessarily, the head of marketing at Harley's fault that some service writer did a bad job preparing a pickup order, but that's how it gets reflected. And then you hear all other stories. So, it's those really dumb things that are, I think it's hurting them. And like I say, I think you've seen it more so than me because you've physically been around Harleys and more dealerships than I have. And I know, like in certain documentaries, I think when you had the shifter spline go on you on the second to last one, and you were saying that dealership, they hooked me up right then, got the bike and worked on it. That's a great relationship. Not that you would maybe ever buy a motorcycle from that dealership, but if there's someone that you know in that area, you would say, hey, they hooked me up down there. The service department took care of me. Some nice guys were there. Go and check out the bikes there. I really like them. That goes a long way nowadays. Way more so, I think, than it ever had before, just because you can do so much on your devices that when you have that great person-to-person communication, it means that much more. Yeah. If that makes sense.
No, it does. And and you're right on cue with that. If they could just be a little bit more, I think back, they have to make, and I was saying with Apple, if they could just get back to, they got to create an environment where they make people feel welcome. Like if you walk in a dealership, a lot of people don't. And I get emails. I get so many emails, so I know a lot of this stuff. But they went in to buy a bike, and the salesman was a dick. Oh yeah. You don't walk in an Apple store and you're going to buy a whatever $2,000 laptop. They don't make they make you feel. They're not high pressure. They make you feel welcome. Like if you buy this is the community. You're going to be taken care of. Apple, or if Harley could.
You said a great word there, and it's community.
Yeah, right.
Because that's what it is. When you, and it doesn't have to be Harley. It's any motorcycle, but motorcycling in general, it's all about the community. That's why we go out for coffee rides. We go out for birthday runs. We like going out with our people that ride these loud, expensive things. And it's part of that community. So, when you have what feels like a very fractured community, that loses interest. The one thing about the dealership near me is they do a lot of rides, right? So I think that's one of the reasons that they still are able to be in business is they have a lot of people that come there for their charity rides that they run out. And they're going to get some people inevitably that are going to buy a bike or sign up for courses, whatever. So in one part they do that well, but I see videos from other moto vloggers where dealerships, they're doing like really fun bike nights where it's not like just Harley guys going out or just like Suzuki guys going out to the Suzuki dealership. Like they're bringing bring your best baggers, bring your best, custom choppers out to, a Honda dealership. And they're trying to get everyone out there and really build that network out. So this way people are going to meet there. People are going to go there. And obviously if you're going to a dealership long enough, you're going to start looking at the bikes in there to buy them. It's just, you can't avoid the eye candy for so long. That's why I have to stay away from this delership.
They've been doing that for years. They're smart about that part.
They're very smart about it.
Hogs and dogs.
But I think that's a great word that you used was the community part, because I think that's something that they're forgetting, that there still is a community, but it's the older community that's established, and they're not the new incoming set of buyers. They need now the younger group of people to build on a community and bring them into it. And I don't know many people my age that care about being hard-ass bikers wearing, cuts. Like, we don't care about that. And even, it's funny, even like, I think you've joked about it too, and I joke about my friends, is I wear a full-face helmet. I have a Shoei RF-1200 I wear, right? There's something with riding a Harley in certain groups that you have to have a half helmet. If you're not in New Jersey, if you're in PA and there's no helmet laws, you don't have to wear a helmet. It's a weird thing that I don't think really any other brand really has. Maybe BMW, because if you ride a BMW, you have to have all the BMW or Kiln gear.
You have to have the full one-piece suit BMW.
Exactly.
Right.
But like, there's no other, like, I don't see many other like brand attires except for Harley, which is jeans, a tank top, maybe a half helmet, and Timberland boots.
Yeah.
And that's the outfit, right?
Right.
And you could buy them all at the Harley dealership for twice the money. But like, that's the thing. And you know, they're forgetting that people, my age group is not, they're not doing that. Like, we're ordering jeans off Amazon. We're not going to Harley and like.
And even our age group now, right? With the internet and YouTube, I do a lot of gear reviews that has nothing to do with Harley, because there's way better stuff. The double price t-shirts and stuff, you know, you've heard me. I make fun of that all the time. Like, go pay 200% markup on t-shirt. Those days are, I think, dwindling, and they don't realize it.
And they definitely are. I mean, I was busting on my buddy's balls because he bought one of like the $80 little button-up short sleeve shirts from the dealership. Yeah. And I looked at him, I was like, why would you do that? He goes, he literally said, he's like, I don't know. I was in there looking at other stuff, and I walked out of the store with it. I don't know why I even bought it. Yeah. It's been and which is great. Harley,
that's what they've lived on for years.
And and in the car industry, Ferrari is the best example of that in the car industry. Ferrari sells way more money in t-shirts and hats and all that than they ever do cars, but they have that marketplace.
That's what people get pissed about. I get a lot of comments like that. They say Harley's nothing more than a clothing company now. Because if you're on their email list, you know, whether you like it or not, I'm on their email list just because I like to see what's going on. And they send out nothing but clothing emails and, you know, coffee cup emails. And it's just like
$5 off a new thermos. You know?
Correct. I mean, they're selling their brand. I mean, I get it. But great conversation. Do you have as we wind it down here, is there anything I didn't ask that you think is like, because I could literally, with guys like you, I can just talk forever. Yeah.
So one thing, and the only reason I'm bringing it up is because I thought about it a lot, like after listening to some of the other podcasts, is that, you know, when you mentioned, you know, what would people my age or younger like to see from Harley, you know, well, I don't really think they need to do anything too drastic with their models. Like, I think they're still making great motorcycles. I like that they're trying to bring out an adventure bike. I think it makes a lot of sense. I think it makes a lot of sense to try and get into the street fighter market. But one thing I'll say from my personal opinion, I won't say like they need to do this, but I think they really need to try and make a sub $10,000 legitimate light touring bike. That's not just a Sportster.
Sorry, I missed that. Sub what?
Like a sub $10,000.
Okay, yep.
Just like a light touring bike. It doesn't have to be something that you can compare to a Road King or anything like that, because that's just ridiculous. The price point's in there, but like the last two times I've ridden a Sportster, I was like, you know, it would be cool to get one of these to turn into like a cafe bike. It's like they're just not. I compare it to like a 950 V-Star, which I've ridden a few of those, and it's a world of difference. Just like the smoothness, the comfortability, they're totally different bikes. But it's, you know, it's a Harley. It has its Harley things. The Evo motors, you know, they're special in one sense. But, you know, if Harley can somehow get what looks like a Harley, because like the Street Series, I've heard from a lot of people, I don't think they're not Harleys to me. They don't have enough design of Harleys. They don't sound like a Harley by any means. You know, I personally don't like them. I'm not sure what your opinion is on the Street 500s and 750s. But I think if they can get some type of sub $10,000, just like a light, more comfortable, a lower seat height cruiser, that's truly an entry level cruising bike that's a little more comfortable. I think that'll be a great product that will attract that first buyer who's like, well, I don't want to have to buy, you know, an Iron 883 Sportster that's just in my price range. I'll have to find the bags to put on it. I'll have to find this and like make it into something comfortable to actually tour on. 'Cause that's the biggest thing that I've seen, you know, people who buy these bikes is that, you know, like my little 800 Suzuki, even though it was a little 800, it was low to the ground for me as a new rider. It was, I think, 500 pounds wet weight, fuel injected. You know, it wasn't fast by any means, but I was able to do, you know, 200 miles a day on it and not feel broken. Mm-hmm. Which I can't say that for Sportsters, because the two times I've ridden Sportsters, I didn't like them after 40 minutes of riding it. And that's just me. I know some people love them. That's awesome. But I think that's something that is a big point with riders is that, or new riders is like, well, if I get a Harley, like the Sportster, it's not something that I think I can really keep for a while, or if I want to do long distance on, even if I wanted to keep it. So I think like maybe some type of bike like that, because it still would be a Harley, it would still be a cruiser. They can still style it the way they want to. And maybe it won't have ABS as standard. Maybe it won't have any type of entertainment by any means. And those things are great at the price point, fine. But just give my age group with a limited budget something that they can truly put miles on and keep for a long period of time. And then that's how you get them in the brand. You actually have them keep the bike for a while.
Yeah.
It's like maybe that'll do. I don't know. Because I think, like, I love the adventure. I love the Street Fighter. But I think saying it's going to be harder to convince people that should be your first Harley, even if they are cheaper than some of the other touring bikes. It's just...
Right.
So I think that's the one thing I can think of. But I know before, because I want to remember that, how much do you love that KLR? Because everyone I've seen reviews on KLRs are like, it's weird, but they're just like these little tanks of bikes. You can't destroy them. And they do everything the other adventure bikes do. And,
yes. And I'm gonna answer that question right now, but we're gonna take it out. And if you guys want to stick around after the outro, I'm gonna answer that question. It'll be a little bonus content for you. Great conversation, guys. Don't forget, we love our patrons. We want you to become a patron member because we get to know you better. We get you in that private Facebook group. We want to get you some benefits and stuff like that. But hey, there are a lot of people that just want to leave a flat donation. We absolutely never balk at a flat donation. So we want to thank these people. Terry Marks of Decatur, Alabama. Norman Masson of, Carrick Fergus, United Kingdom, substantial donation. And Carl Skull. Thank you, lawabidingbiker.com/donate. Anytime you can leave us a flat donation. Helps put a little fuel in the Law Abiding Biker gas tank so we can keep this thing heading on down the road. That's right. Call to action, guys. That's right. Want to get a smoother ride? Be progressive about it then. You see what I did there? Get hooked up with progressive suspension in the Law Abiding Biker store, both for front and rear. Get a better ride with Progressive, guys. We do sell the Progressive suspension in there. I've already done a 444 install, actually a 944 install on Squid's bike. Right now in edit that I was working on right before this podcast is the 444, sorry. We installed it on Oscar's bike, and I'm editing that video to go up on the YouTube channel. But also both very popular models, the 944 and the 444. Check out those videos on the YouTube channel. And, of course, we appreciate your support down there in the Law Abiding Biker store, because Big Daddy Kane and Goat down there have been really busy, regardless of all that's going on. Those guys have been rocking and rolling. And if you got a question, hit them up down there at the store. You know the face behind the store. They're there to help you. They're actually bikers. And, there you go, guys. Appreciate you, Michael, having you on here today. Wealth of knowledge, man.
Yeah. It was awesome. I enjoyed it. Like I said, I definitely think I've rambled enough. I told you it might be a problem, but
no, dude, that's what this podcast is all about. You see, I don't hold any tight schedule. I love it because those are just getting on the phone with other bikers. Like I said, if I was there, I'd have a beer with you. We're having a beer virtually.
Yeah.
We're having beers virtually.
Yeah.
If I'm ever over that way, I love meeting up with people. And it's great, and I appreciate all your input. And you brought up a lot of really good points. So there you go, guys. I will answer the KLR question here.
Curious.
Okay. So the answer to your question, I think I got your whole question. So the KLR, that could be a whole nother episode. We've done some on it, but let me tell you this. I absolutely, if you get a KLR and you get it with, a decent amount that hasn't, mileage like I did, that hasn't been beat up and too bad, and you make some simple modifications to it, And I'm putting all these videos out.
Doohickey, is that the one?
The doohickey,
whatever it is. Yeah.
The doohickey, yep.
Yeah.
You do the doohickey. If you buy a KLR and get a good deal on it, and then you put $1,500 into it, or even up to $2,000, you have got a bike that is an amazing. It is going to last you a long time. It is a tank. It's going to get through stuff. It's going to treat you right. Some panniers, a lower dash, an upper dash, the doohickey. You'll definitely want to change out the rear suspension. I'm doing a video. We did all this. The rear suspension video might be out. I'm not sure yet. And then we put some Cogent front suspension in it. So literally $1,500, $2,000, and you have got an adventure bike that has been around the world into more places than any other adventure bike on the market. And it is, we ride it. We just rode it last weekend again. It is an amazing bike. It's hard for other companies. Of course, they're all going after it. And again, it really comes down to what you're looking for, what kind of riding. Like we do fire road, we do Forest Service roads, but we all do do trail riding. We do some steep stuff. We do a lot of crazy rock, type climbing and stuff, where a lot of those bikes wouldn't be able to do that. And because it's more of a dirt bike style, even though it's very decent on the road, for what it is, it's decent on the road. You don't have to trailer it. A lot of people are like, oh, get this. There's a difference between it. Pretty much, yeah. Right. Well, then get a dirt bike. I would love to have a dirt bike too. I want a pit bike. I want a dirt bike. I want a KLR. I want a BMW. So a lot of guys get in that trap. But for an all-around amazing bike, I'm telling you, that thing is a running freaking machine. I love it. I've had more fun on it than I can imagine. The only other bike right now that I would be interested if I do upgrade. It would be the KTM. I remember you were talking about. Me and Lurch have talked about it.
Yeah, like the prequel to buying the KLR was the KTM. Was really.
Yep. It's a good bike. It comes more. It's more expensive, but you wouldn't have to change the rear suspension and the front suspension. So it's give
more
take.
Premium parts on
right.
It, yeah.
But my KLR is still sticker price, even with my upgrades, is way below that. And
that was it. They seem like there's like the almost like the cheap and cheerful factor is where
totally
what you get out for buying them, and it's at some point, like you said, I want to have multiple bikes, and
right.
I'm trying to decide whether the second bike is going to be some type of like dual sport adventure or going to be some type of vintage bike I can work on.
Right.
And you can find KLRs for cheap. There's not many other real dual sporty bikes that you can get for cheap that are just going to run. And
correct. They just run.
They're just tanks.
They are tanks, and the motor on those things is so solid. I mean, they did it for 30 years. I mean, you're talking.
Is that single or is that a?
What's that?
A twin.
Single.
Is it a twin?
Yeah.
It is.
No, it's a thumper.
It's a big thumper.
Yeah, it's a big thumper, and it's just you can just beat the shit out of that thing. I still can't believe the stuff I do to it. And I'm like, this is like an amazing bike. So I'm looking here real quick, and then we'll take it out here. Let's see, travel there. So the 1290. The 790. Let's see, 1290, the 790 Adventure R is the KTM. I love that bike. That thing is, actually, but it comes in at 14.
It's a 790. I'm going to look it up right now.
The 2020 KTM 790 Adventure R. I love that bike, but it's $14,000. I mean, my KLR, I'm trying to think of this price, but I got it. The guy had used a little bit. I mean, I got it for like $5 something, and then I put $2,000 into it. So you're liking it $7,000. I mean, it's another $7,000.
It's sharp though. That is a sharp looking bike.
It's a badass bike, and it's already got the good rear suspension. It's already, you don't have to do like you'd want to get maybe some panniers or some soft bags for it, but other than that, and that's what you're talking about, right? In the Harley thing is this bike. You're really, of course, you're going to do your little tweaks because you make it yourself, but really you don't have to put hardly any money into that thing. So
no,
it's out of the box, ready to, and this is the fight right now between all these adventure companies. This is the fight, is this middleweight dirt bike slash it's good on the road. It can go on trails. It can go on fire roads, service roads, cause like the BMWs, they're good bikes, right? Like the 1200s, right? Or whatever. Their adventure series,
GS,
GS, but it's a fire service, it's a Forest Service road. You're not going to go. I'm telling you right now, Big Daddy here bought one of those used.
Oh, really?
And he's already wants to come with us on some stuff, and he already caveats in our chat. He's like, but I can't go on some of the stuff you guys go on. It's too big,
too heavy. Yeah.
So, there's this is the middleweight. This is the middleweight adventure that everybody's going to be fighting for. And I think Kawasaki is probably going to step up to the plate and come out with something, that's well below price point of KTM. And I think they're going to nail it.
Well, if they continue the KLR thing, yeah.
Right. If they continue, yeah.
I'm a sucker for the Triumphs only because I love triple motors. Just 'cause they sound gnarly. So like the new 900 Tigers, I mean,
it's a cool bike. I don't know enough about it to talk like smartly about it. You know what I mean?
So it's funny, the triple motors that Triumph has been made for years. I just like, whether it's in the street triple, whether it's in like the Daytona sport bikes, they just make a great triple.
Mm-hmm.
But the new 900s, it's a slightly different one than they use than the 800 Tigers. It's like a different firing order they use, and it gives it more power. And the one thing I've seen from a lot of reviews is that it's just the power delivery is so linear. It just has like this natural build that just feels completely different than almost any other bike.
Yeah.
And it's really controllable. The rider modes actually work the way you think they should. And I'm just a sucker for Triumph, so it's like...
I love Triumph.
I know I won't have the money. I know I won't have the money for the 900, but I really, really want to have the money for it.
Yeah.
But they're cool bikes. I mean, it's cool here in the KLR because I see them on Craigslist. I mean, various years and condition, but...
Right.
That's kind of it's like, maybe I can just scoop one of those up because I bought like the V-Star I bought for $2,000. I just did some cosmetic redone work. I don't mind buying something that I just need to put a little work into as long as I can get it running.
Yeah, exactly.
Looking good,
and for a first adventure bike, you can't go wrong. Like I wanted to get into it and see if I really liked it, and I'm in love now. So I probably will at some point, depending on what KLR. If KLR comes without something new, I may skip but my dream if I had $14,000 sitting around, which I don't.
Yeah.
And I'm very happy with my KLR, and I'm going to ride it.
You need that extra, that like little chest of money to fall out of the sky.
Yeah, you always want something more. I mean, it's ridiculous because the KLR does, for my kind of riding and what we're doing, it does everything and more. And, but we're human, and we're always like, new shiny thing, right? It's a new shiny thing. Cute.
All the time. Oh yeah, my buddy, he's just gotten comfortable in his fat bob, and he didn't even know if he wanted to do long rides. And I think 2 days ago, he sent me, it was the first one, he sent me an ad for a 2006 Road King with a trailer that someone was selling for $9,000. He's like, man, I could buy the trailer and hook up to my truck. I'm like, I didn't think you wanted to ride long distance. He goes, well, I've ridden with you a lot, so... And this fat bob's hard on that. I'm like, all right, well, I'm sorry I infected you with the motorcycle bug, but...
Yeah,
it just seems like one isn't enough,
Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
That's for sure.
No doubt.
Yeah.